So Senzo Meyiwa was murdered in 2014. In 2019, a biography of the soccer star was published. Joining us is the author, Soweto Mandlanzi, author of Decoding 666, The Inexplicable Life of Senzo Meyiwa. Thank you for being with us. So at the time you wrote this book, police, I think the theory then was this was a robbery. We now have 5 people arrested, so fast forward, they're in court. Gerry Nell, who's looking at this from AfriForum, says police know that there is a mastermind. So we don't know what's going to be presented in court. Will this be about a robbery or a hit or something sinister that was planned with a mastermind? Just tell us what you think following the case and with the facts that you had at the time in 2019.
Greetings, Francis, and your viewers. Thank you for having me on your show. Look, when we did the interviews, I always say to people when we did the interviews, because I want them to know that I was not part in any way, or I was not there at the scene when these things happened. I don't want people to think I'm an expert who witnessed something or who saw something. But we did very particular interviews with some of the people who were there. You know, one of the things that we surely know from the interviews is that both the friends of Senzo Meyiwa, Mtogo and Du, had mentioned to myself that there were guys who came in the house, you know, and the 2 guys started asking for cell phones and started asking for money and all of that. We know that when we continued and persisted in doing these interviews, trying to find out if that story was valid, of course, to verify that it has a fact. You know, we found out that the story changes. You know, one of the things that also Sfiso had mentioned to myself was that when he sat with the guys, when I said the guys, of course, the friends, is that the story would change. You know, they would say, and I think some of the people who've seen the documentary would have heard Sfiso saying this, that they would say there were guys who came in the house, but then no, there was nobody. It was this particular person. Well, I'm not at liberty to mention that person now, but that's what they would say when they're drunk. So the story in the book, as told, was unable to verify the robbery or the hit as a fact, or should I say the fact that there was a mastermind in as far as we are concerned. What we had established was through the book and the interviews, you know, was that nobody came in at that time, you know, but we were unable to know then if nobody came in first through the fact that the guy who hid somewhere in one of the houses by the neighbor said he didn't see anyone coming in, you know, and that, of course, to us was a big question. But I didn't want to, in doing this book, to be seen as an investigative writer. I wasn't doing a crime book. I was doing a biography for Senzo Meyiwa. So the first intention was to look at his life, his birth until death, without pure intention to look at really what happened to him when he died. So there may be gaps to what we did, but we did establish that no one came in the house.
All right, and I guess there has been a lot of speculation since, and some believe the robbery story, it may have been a hit, and that takes away from anybody in the house. What you're saying is that there has also been a lot of focus still on the people who were inside the house. So we'll see how this plays out in court. You say you were focusing on the man, and you say you tried not to show him as an angel. Why, looking at the name of the book, why is Senzo Meyiwa's life inexplicable?
In so many ways. I think I'm going to pick a very few things. One, the death of his twin, Sia. He had a twin by the name of Sia Bonga. When we look at the book, you know, and when we wrote the book actually, and look at Sia as another character in the book, the way he dies, he portrays exactly how Senzo Meyiwa is going to die. You know, there end up being so many people at the beach, you know. His father regrets how he died. died and whatsoever. And when we just looked at that and look at how Senzo dies, it was shocking to figure out that there were actually similarities. Now, another thing going forward, it was almost very difficult to explain Senzo's life because all the patterns or the aspects of life are quite involved in every phase of his life. And I'm talking about spiritual matters, I'm talking about physical matters. So with his death also, I mean, we were able to look at him and understand that not only was just Senzo shot, you know, I did interviews with his mother and father and with his coach. And one of the things that they were saying was that, no, the ancestors had just turned away from him. They had continuously told him, do not do this, do not do this, but Senzo could not listen. I mean, at some point, his own family, they took him to this traditional doctor for cleansing, and that is when at the time Senzo was still alive. You know, when you look at those things happening and Senzo being unable to figure out, it just becomes so difficult. And the last part, of course, was the fact that in doing the book, one would have thought it would be so easy for us to tell the story at the end as to who killed Senzo Meyiwa, but we did our best. We did what we could. We interviewed everyone. And the story ends with no one else coming into the house except the people mentioned in the book. All
right, so his life was a mystery. His death remains a mystery. We're running out of time. Very quickly, you received death threats while you were writing this book. You wrote how your mother received a call, I think. Have you ever found out who was behind that?
I have, for many reasons, I thought, let me not follow this. Yes, I did. And I remember that at some time we were in Devon, you know, a man came to me and said, in the publication of this book, you know, we said things that I cannot say on national TV. But of course, they were giving me threats, you know, that they would kill me. You know, I mean, some of the things I've been raped, you know, all of those things. But I decided, for me, this is the purpose. This is a cause of life. This is part of my journey. This is what I came to do. And it wasn't really to solve the case, but it was to write about Senzo's life. So I have been receiving death threats, and I came to a point where I said, look, and people who have seen when I wrote the book, I said, the way Senzo dies, being the man that he is, of his caliber, of his stature, who am I to even think I'd be able to defend myself? So whatever happens, happens. But one thing that I'll be happy about, I have served, and I've actually served my generation by writing about Senzo's life. And my ideal situation was to have a black icon having a book being written by another black person.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, the context here, the news context, is that the trial of 5 men has been postponed until tomorrow. Thank you very much. Soweto Mandlanzi, author of Decoding 666, The Inexplicable Life of Senzo Meyiwa.